Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So far we have seen we can measure this stress, we can determine this stress at on-site wherever we want to have our structure, and we can measure it, and very good methods are devised by the researchers over the years. Very good number of good methods are there, and we have discussed that the body called ISRM, is International Society of Rock Mechanics, has given a 5 different methods: flat jack method, overcoring methods. Then we have hydrofracturing method. With the help of that, it is not possible for us to find out the in situ stress at any depth. But we have to find out the suitable location. Still, there are a lot of scopes are there where the researchers are working to make the system to be very, very simple. Now you will see we have a simple system starting with the flat jack technique, and then overcoring technique, and much more complicacy being added to the hydrofracturing techniques. But instead of solving the problem of a flat jack technique, we'll find that our testing systems become more and more complicated. So still there are a lot of research scopes are there to devise a very simple method for the measurement of in situ stress. Still there are scopes are there, and the researchers are working over there to find out how we can find these stresses very easily. To be systems methods should be very, very simple, cost effective, less time consuming, as well as not labor intensive. No? So these are the problems that is still there, and we are trying to solve it. Okay. Now come to the strength. So while discussing about this aspect of stresses, I had also talked about the strength as well, and that is very much related with the design of any structure. I told you for any design principle, simple design principle is that we are trying to compare the strength and the applied stresses. And if our applied stresses are within the strength of the body or the structure will be safe, else it will be unstable. So uh, we want to find both these things important. No? Either we have to find out the stresses or the strength. Stresses, it means to say that under what type of stress field the body is being constructed. That is important. And when we are talking about the stresses, it means that we need to know the magnitude and the direction. Okay, we need to know magnitude and the direction. And here we are talking about the magnitude of in situ stresses. Here we are talking about the magnitude of the in situ stresses. Once we will start making a structure, the in situ stress will change to induced stress. So later on we will be interested to find out what will be the induced stress. So there are some of the mathematical expressions are there through which we will get some idea about the induced stress. And those induced stress, again, we can, as we have seen the flat jack technique, we can measure those induced stress as well. We can measure those induced stress by overcoring techniques as well. Okay, so those options are there with these methods. As far as strength is concerned, and all of you will agree with my statement that the material which we are dealing with, the rock material, is a natural material. And we have seen that this natural material having some sort of defects are there, inherent defects are there, and this nature, this mother nature has given it, and as it is, we have to accept this material, and we have to work with this material. So we have two options. Either we can work with the material, whatever is given to us, we can characterize it. Characterize means we will try to find out its property, how it is going to behave under the effect of different types of stresses. And other aspect is there any options so that we can increase the strength also. So there are two aspects as far as the strength is concerned. So first of all, we will try to find out what is its inherent strength. And if we are satisfied with the inherent strength or the natural strength of the material, it's fine, it's very good. But if we are not satisfied or our design requirement is not fulfilling the need of the strength which is given by the nature, then we have to think for the alternative to increase the strength by some artificial means. And this is what we will see how we can increase this strength of this material. First, before that, we have to see what is the strength of these natural material. No? And I told in one class that we can find out or we can characterize these materials, this natural material, by two methods, and we can characterize this materials at two locations. Now, one locations can be the laboratory, which we are developing within a boundary walls of our labs, where the size of the instrument, capacity of the instrument having some limitations, whereas and not only the size and the capacity of the instrument, but also the direction through which this load will be applied, that will also being will be a limitation, right? Whereas another type of test is there where we can do all these tests in the on site itself, wherever the rock is present, we can test this material on site. So in those situations, what will happen? The size of the instrument, your capacity of the instrument, you can have a larger capacity also, as well as you will see the load in which the direction in which this stress is coming, that is being defined in the nature itself. No? So those things you do not have to worry about. Apart from that, there are other factors are there, like environmental conditions. Okay? Maybe the temperature, maybe the groundwater, maybe the environmental effects are there, which are present on site, which is not there when we are, or maybe the humidity, right? So these are the environmental effects are there, which can affect the properties of this rock when we are testing this rock on site. Okay. But when we are carrying all these materials to the laboratory, what will happen during the process of transportations? Maybe some of the vibrations, machine vibrations will occur. Maybe during packaging, and maybe due to during this handling of the handling by the manpower, may affect these joints or the discontinuities present within the rock mass. So sometimes it is very important to have this in situ test, in situ or on-site test. We can test all these material or characterize these materials on-site itself. Okay. So if we look at the different types of, if we see what are the different options are there and what are the different properties are there, which is important to measure on-site. No? So people have characterized it based on our requirement. More or less we can test all the properties on site, but few of them are there. It is not going to have any difference between on site or in the laboratory. Some of the properties are there, so other way it will be same. So we have one set of experiment that and possibly you have already visited our rock mechanics lab, right, during your first year induction time, and I will share some of the photographs. Today I'm not prepared with some of the photographs, so I will share with you, and I will try to show you, and possibly we can virtually visit our rock mechanics lab as well, and possibly you can recollect what are the instruments you have seen during your induction period. Okay. So I will start with my slide I have prepared for you, and you will see if you can look at this one, and I have tried to differentiate between the in situ test and the laboratory test. As I told you again and again, in situ test or the on-site test is very costly. It is time consuming, labor intensive, and can test a large size of rock mass. And I can come again. What is rock mass? So maybe some of you can answer. What is rock mass? Anybody can please answer what is rock mass if you remember.
Rock in situ.
Tell, rock mass is
Rock in situ condition.
okay. That is okay, but we are defining rock mass as a rock material having discontinuities. Okay. It is on-site, true, but if I'm talking about discontinuity, it will not be a. Just telling on-site is not going to define the rock mass. Right? We are telling that the rock material having the discontinuities, then it is going to complete the definitions, right? Okay, it will complete our definitions. Always we will see that we are talking about the rock mass having discontinuities. Okay, so we have a few classes will be there after the in situ strength. We will talk about the rock mass also, right? And whatever the different discontinuities are there, how we can, what are the different parameters are there by which we can measure these discontinuities. Okay, there are plenty of methods are there, but we have identified only 10 parameters. Based on that, we can measure these discontinuities. Okay, so those things will be covered in our next topic. So here quickly we will see laboratory test makes use of a small size sample, theoretically free from geological discontinuities. Okay. So what is the objective of in situ strength test? The objective of in situ strength test is to uh, suitability of a site for a proposed engineering work. No? What is your proposed engineering work? Proposed engineering work may be creation of a tunnel. No? Recently, you might have heard that the about the Atal Surang in Rohtang, no? Almost 9 kilometers long, and it was created in a rock mass. No, possibly you should much be interested because you are a student of rock mechanics. So you should think that how it is going to affect uh, the how it is going to affect. So this is our engineering work. No? So maybe we are talking about the tunnels, maybe we are talking about the mines, maybe we are talking about the hydroelectric projects, maybe we are talking about the underground repository, maybe we are talking about the market complex below the surface within the rock mass itself. Okay. So these are the engineering work we are trying to these are the engineering work for which we are trying to find out whether the site is suitable or not. So first of all, when we are talking about the in situ strength measurement, our motivation is to check whether the site is suitable for as far as our engineering work is concerned or not. No? Maybe for different types of a structure, our requirement will be different. So based on that, we have to design our test, check whether it is suitable or not. Maybe some sort of a foundation of a multi-story building. If I'm talking about a multi-story building of 10 story, if I'm talking about 100 story, if I'm talking about 50-story buildings at a particular site, so definitely our requirement will change. No? So suitability of a site will depends upon how big the structure is. No? How big the structure is, how small the structure is. Okay, so our suitability of a site will be governed by the type of structures we are planning for. So that's why, based on the type of structures we have to have the testing also. No? So that's why we have devised this in situ strength test for based on our so we have to test whether our site is suitable or not. So then we have to take for the alternatives. Now, if the site is not suitable, we have to look for the alternative options, right? Okay. So next point is that facilitate adequate, safe and economical design. It is not like that if the structure or the site is safe, it's fine. If it is not safe, it doesn't mean that we can use different means, artificial means to make it safe. If I'm going to take additional measures to make it safe, then possibly it will incur some of the economical, some financial losses. No? We have to spend a lot of money to make that site suitable. That is possible. This is all time it is possible that we can make the site suitable by doing some measures, but everything will cost you. No? So when we are talking about the engineering structures, not only we have to look about the application of our knowledge, but also we have to see that our knowledge should be implemented economically, as well as it should be safe also. No? So we have to see this part also. It should be safe as well as the design should be economical. No? It should not attract a lot of money to make our structures very nice. Okay, so economy is one of the aspects also. Also, we have to see the in future what are the problems may occur on this structure. What are whether this area is seismic or earthquake prone zone, whether it is coming under if it is very close to the Himalayas, so a lot of seismic activities are taking place. So we have to look for that, whether those areas are very prone to some flood also. So those problems we have to see. Maybe we can also foresee whether in future some sort of a development of city is also going to happen. City is going to expand and may come to those locations or not. So we have to look for the problems which is associated with which can occur in future. Maybe due to city expansion, maybe due to flooding, maybe due to some earthquake type of activity. So we have to see all those things, and accordingly we have to design. Right? Like say for example, if I'm thinking that a multi-story buildings are concerned, so we have to see that okay, nearby whether some other new structures is going to happen, occurring or not. Say for example, in a mining construction, and possibly you might have understood that in underground mining or in a surface mining, a lot of structures are coming up over the period of time. As the mine expands, new structures are being added in terms of a shaft, in terms of some sort of a buildings is going to be created, or maybe some sort of offices are being created around the some structure. So we have to see what is your plan and what is going to happen in future based on this. So those things you have to consider when you are looking for the site, selection of the site. And you have to see whether anything is going to happen because all these things are going to change the site conditions or not, or whether your site conditions will remain same or it is going to change over the period of time. So these are the objectives which we have to consider when we are going for the in situ strength testing. Okay. So what is the purpose then? The purpose is very simple. We are going to define a high quality experimental data. This is the ultimate test results we are going to get. Ultimate. No? We cannot say a better, we cannot get other result better than this. No? Because it incorporates, when we are testing in a site, it incorporates everything, all the variables, starting with the environmental conditions, the direction of loading, or the type of discontinuities which is present in the rock mass is being incorporated into that. So this is very high. So with this test we are going to get a ultimate value of your experimental data, or you are going to get to characterize the rock mass up to a very high standard. No? So that is very important. So So this is the purpose, because we are going to get a like, say for example, in some of the cases like nuclear repositories. Now, when we are trying to the burnt fuel, nuclear fuel, we are trying to store at some locations. So they are going to emit, because these are the radioactive elements. So they are going to have emission for maybe thousands of years or 10,000 of years, and these emissions will take place. So we want the safety of those repositories of to be there. No? So in that situations, we cannot compromise with the quality of your experimental data. We cannot only rely on your lab experiment data, but we have to have, we should have some very in situ test as well to understand what is going to happen when some sort of a repositories are coming at a particular point of time. Maybe some sort of a military installations are required when the fighter jets or your fighter jets are being hidden from the eyes of the enemies. So in those cases, if we have the hangars are there, large structures are there, what should be there? So if in case of some adversaries by the enemies, so we can ensure the safety of those type of installations. Okay, so if such type of things are there, we have to have a very, we have to generate a very high quality data with a lot of confidence. So because of these purposes only, we need to have the in situ strength test. Okay, these data are very much essential that it should follow some stress strain rule. Stress strain rule you have already understood from your school days about the Hooke's law. A stress is directly proportional to a strain, and the stress is related with the modulus of elasticity, and with the strain in three-dimensional field, it is related to the modulus of elasticity and the Poisson's ratio. But when we are talking about in a real material, your material is not going to follow a Hooke's law at all. Maybe it is going to have some other rules will be there which you will go to, which you are going to study in our coming classes, right? So we have to find out a constitutive models. How this stress and strain are related with each other. It is not a simple Hooke's law is going to follow. Hooke's law will be applicable up to certain limit, but after that it is no longer valid. So we have to find out what is the rule which is going to follow this stress strain behavior of this natural materials, right? So we have to have, so the selection of the site. So I think you might be understood that the selection of the test site is very, very important, and we have to see what are the rock types are there, and what are the load which is being coming. If I am making a large structure, what is the load which is being generated on the rock mass? How much load is it is going to generate, right? What is the one term we are defining, that is called the joint frequency. So that is very important. So we have to find out, this is the type of a discontinuity. Okay? We will discuss in, possibly some of you might have understood, maybe gone through this joint, and maybe we can discuss in, but in short we can say number of break into the rock mass per unit length. So this is, we are calling a joint frequency. And how long it is, whether it is a 1 meter, 2 meter, 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer. We want to know what is the extent of this joint. So that is very, very important. So when we are selecting this site, we have to have a full detail of this joint discontinuities or the geological discontinuities. Okay. We have to find out what is the faults, if the faults are there, because these are the discontinuities which is very much present in the rock mass. So we have to have a full knowledge about their orientations, okay, and what is the direction of this load which is going to come on these faults. If faults are there, then what is the direction of those loads which is being applied on these loads. Then we have the pore water. Water pressure is very, very important. The presence of water in the rock is very, very important, because this, if presence of water is going to have a negative role, no? Because it is going to decrease the strength of the rock mass, maybe extent of 1/5 of the value. No? If the water content in the rock mass is too much, maybe fully saturated, so it can, the strength will be very, very less. Maybe 1/5 of the in the dry conditions. Now, if you are talking about the dry condition and the wet condition, so the strength is changing. We add the addition with the addition of the water. So we have to find out all these things. Now, so this, because if I'm talking about, say for example, in a year, no, a rock structure will see in India especially, we will see that the rock structures or any of the mine, open cast mine or underground mine, especially if you talk about the open cast mine, it will go through a very summer season, having a temperature goes about to 50 degree, maybe a winters, maybe around in single digits, maybe 5 degrees, 6 degree temperature, or maybe less than that, maybe in the frozen conditions also, and some conditions will be there where it will be a fully rainy season. No? So we have variations of this natural conditions are there, where the effects of the rock mass will vary. So we have to find it out which of the conditions, in which of the conditions your rock is behaving in a very bad way, and your design approach will be based on that, right? So this selection of this test site is very, very important, which will give you a representation of the actual structure, the actual structure, what it is going to be there in the similar situations we are trying to find out. We are trying to identify the similar situation of the similar conditions which is going to happen when an actual structure is being created at a particular locations. So this selection of site is very, very important when we are going to. So it should represent the actual condition. Test site should represent the actual conditions. Okay, when the construction will take place. So based on this background, we have few of the tests when we are talking about the strength properties, and I have so many tests are there. I will not talk about all of them, but I will try to give you some basics about deformability test. There are so many deformability tests are there. I will not go into all of them. I will just talk about one of them, and I will give you an idea about what are the different types of and the variations of tests we are doing, and the fundamentals are almost same for all of them, right? Fundamentally, all the test methods are same, which is coming into this heading, deformability test. So we are calling one of the test is called the deformability test, right? It is similar to what I will come to. Okay, so one of them is called the deformability test. So we are going to finding with this test, we are trying to find out the deformation modulus. Okay, you so far you have studied about or heard about the modulus of elasticity or elastic modulus. Here we are trying to find out the deformation modulus. So we'll also see it is more or less it is simple, same, but this deformability test or the deformation modulus is being used to define the modulus value of the rock mass. Okay, when we will talk about the rock mass, we are talking about this deformability test. It is similar test which we are conducting for for your a rock sample in the laboratory and determining the modulus of elasticity. The concept wise it is same, but there is a small difference is there, and because of that we are calling it a deformability test. Okay. Other tests are there where we are trying to find out the shear strength. Okay, we are trying to find out the shear strength of the material, and you can see in this bracket we have written suggested method 1974. Means ISRM has accepted it as a method in 1974, right? like here it is 1979. Similarly, we have the other tests are there, which is not very standard methods, but this is what we are the strength test to find out the compressive strength, tensile strength, and bearing capacity. This is the another property which will maybe I can give you a very short discussion. Okay, and then we have the permeability. The permeability is something which is related with the easiness of water or the fluid to flow through the rock. How easily the rock can flow through the rock, and we are trying to measure it with the test called the permeability test. Okay, so which we are going to see in coming class. So in today's class, possibly I will give you a very brief about the deformability test. Okay, so in deformability test, what we are doing, I will try to today I am planning to draw a small photograph so that it will give you a very. Then I will show you the standard photographs which is there in the books, so that you can understand it very well. Now, say for example, do not you see the surface is there, and we have a opening, a very square opening. It can be of any shape, irregular shape or something like that. I will also show you some of the actual photographs from the mine, and this will give you a clear picture later on. But before that, I am going to give you. So in this case, what we are using an instrument called uh, 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 borehole extensometer. Okay, so we are using an instrument called borehole extensometer, and that is being installed between the 2 points, between the two opposite ends. So first test is known as the plate test, no? Deformability test. The first test is known as plate test. So I am going to discuss about the plate test here. So in case of plate test, what we are doing, we are creating a small hole. We are drilling at the one of the end. We are creating a slot, maybe on the wall, on the roof, and a small drill slot is being created. Okay. Okay. So this is being created. Possibly you will get difficulty to assume that there is some slot. So maybe I can make it a little thicker and place it over here, and maybe I can make it white. So a slot is being created, hole is being created, right? A hole is being created, maybe circular in cylindrical in shape. That is being created, and you can see it is nicely placed here. And this is a gallery. We are calling it a gallery, right? So a gallery is being created, and we have okay. So this is being created. No? So in after and similar one more gallery is being created below the just on the opposite end. No? Just on the opposite end, another gallery is being created. Another slot is being created by just drilling a hole. And you can see these two will be kept coaxial with each other. No? It will be in the coaxial with each other. So they are coaxial with each other. So two holes are created in this gallery, and in that gallery, we are further creating a hole, and which will be a long hole, and that hole can extend maybe 10 to 15 meter below into the roof. Okay, and maybe it can go 10 to 15 meter below the roof, below the floor. So in the rock, this is your roof. We can call it a roof, and we can call the floor. This is your floor. So if we have a gallery, we can define to the floor, and the walls are very clear. These verticals will be vertical is your wall. So I am showing you the vertical section. So this is your what is wall, and this is your roof, and this is your floor. In roof also we are creating a hole, cylindrical hole of bigger dimensions, and then we have a smaller diameter hole will be created. Similarly, there will be another hole at the bottom also, and both are coaxial. Coaxial means both are in the same line, right? If I can draw a line, I will find that they are on the same. So I can give another color, and coaxial. If you are if you have gone through your coaxial, we can show by this line. Bigger line and then dotted line. This is showing you that these two holes are coaxial with each other. Now, once this is drilling operation is done, so we have created this drill. Then after that, we have an instrument called borehole extensometer. Okay, and this borehole extensometer is also is something where we are borehole. You understood? We have created a borehole, and then extensometer, which is talking about the extension. So some meter is there, measuring instrument is there, which can measure the deformation when it is will be in tension, right? So in this case, what we are doing, we have a full set of instruments. We can see that it is sometimes also known as, it is also in short we are known as MPBX. Okay, what MPBX stands for? MP is stands for multi position or multi point or point borehole extensometer, right? So in short, we are calling it a multi-position borehole extensometer. Okay, so MPBX. So we are using. So our first instrument will be to install this MPBX into this into this borehole. Okay. So first of all, we had a head of this instrument, and this will be something like a cylinder, and then there is a something which we are going to place over here. So the diameter of this head should match with the diameter of the your what is called the hole we have created. So this will go inside it, and we will just so the height of this hole should definitely it should match. Okay. Otherwise, what will happen? It will just extend outside. So we are going to fix it. If I can fill with some color, it will look looks good. This color. So this is your head of this instrument, and then there is a multi what is called what is we can call it a wires are there. 3 different size of the wires are there, which can come in a small pieces, maybe 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meter pieces. Okay, and there is extensometers are there, which is being created between which is being inserted between these 2 points into this head of this instrument. Okay, and then we have this rods which is connected with this instrument at different depth. So this is your complete instrument which we are talking about. So here we are talking about the 3 points. So when this instrument is getting installed, it is getting installed at 3 different locations. And finally, what we are going to do, we are going to attach this instrument below into this borehole itself by sending the grouting materials, cement, sand mixture inside that, and it is getting placed over here. So if I can say, here. So in a very what is called very good way it will look, means when it is getting installed completely, it will be something like that. And our this hole will be filled with some grouting material. So you can see our hole becomes smaller. So for maybe I can we can make it little bigger so that so we are installing this thing over here. Okay, so it will be some. Okay. And then we have this borehole. Okay, so our borehole will be somewhat bigger in diameter. So we can have this. And these boreholes are getting filled with some filling material, a concrete type of. So we can have a filling something concrete we can fill over here and send it back. So you can see that these holes are getting filled by some concrete. So I can make it, maybe I can make it smaller. So you can see now, I can make it a little bigger. These rods, the 3 rods we are talking about, so that's why it will be called 3-point borehole extensometer. If I am fixing these points at 3 locations, so there will be anchors. Anchors will be there. It is going to fix it. It will grasp it, will hold the rod at some 3 locations, maybe based on the length of the rods. So one rod may be 15-meter long, one second rod may be 10-meter long, another rod can be 5-meter long, or you can select the length of the rod based on the applications you are looking for. Okay, so similar way we can install the instrument here again. Okay, and after that what we are doing, if I can make it very bigger, so if I can use the same small setup on the other end, so another setup will be installed on the back side. Okay, then what we are doing, we are putting the flat jack. You have already studied about the flat jack, so we are installing some flat jack over here on top of this this one. Okay, and one flat jack will be created over here. Then what we are doing, we are applying some amount of hydraulic jacks. We are putting hydraulic jacks at maybe if it is a square in cross section, so maybe 3-4 hydraulic jacks will be applied. It all depends upon the type of structures we have. So hydraulic jacks will be applied and it is going to apply the pressure. The hydraulic jacks will be used to. So when this flat jack, in case of flat jack, we are applying some sort of a pressure, and the pressure is going to be uniformly distributed into the flat jack. All along the pressure will be same. Okay, and so we can do in both the way. Either we can apply the pressure by the flat jack, or if you need a additional pressure apart from the flat jack which is available with you, we can apply some hydraulic rams also, or maybe we can have some support so that the reactions will be generated between the two surfaces. Okay, if I am doing this process, what will happen? We are trying to push the rock mass up to, we are trying to push the rock mass up to maybe 10 to 15 meter of size. You can see, one is borehole is anchored at this location 10 meter from this point, one is 15 meter from this point, and similarly on the floor also 5 meter, 10 meter and 15 meters are there. So here my purpose is that I am trying to push the rock mass of that much of size, maybe 10 meter or 5 meter. Here it is very important that whatever the extensometer we are using, that is of highest length, the rod of the highest length, our aim is that the pressure should not reach up to that point. That is our reference line. So In this case, if I will ask you what will be the strain, if I will ask you a question, if I am applying this type of stress and I am trying to find out the strain, can you tell me the answer of strain? If I will try to find out the strain at this moment, can you find out? No, because we do not know the initial length from this point to this point. What was the initial length before the excavations? We do not know that. Okay, we are trying to find out the deformation. So that's why, because we cannot find out the strain at this moment and up to what extent the deformation is going to propagate because of the load application at this location. We are applying the load only at this location and we are trying to find out the deformation in this entire entire area which is composed of rock mass having some joints, discontinuities. So we are not sure that whether this effect is going to this point or just ending at this 15 meter of length. We do not know. So because of this reason, we are not sure about the strain value when we are testing in a rock mass condition. We do not know the original length of the rock mass for which the deformation has occurred. Because our measuring points are only at fixed location, 5 meter, 10 meter and 15 meter. Okay. So we are not sure about the size, actual size for which the deformation is happening. So that's why we cannot have delta L by L. So if I will ask you the definition of a strain, we are defining a strain means epsilon is equal to, we are defining equation, if I can write, we are defining your epsilon is equal to, we can define by delta L by L. So here we do not know the we do not know the comparison. We do not know the original length. So no question of this strain is there. We know only some delta, some change in length. We have find out some delta. So we are getting only delta over here. So we are calling it we are getting some delta, means some deformations we are measuring. So that's why we are measuring this deformation, and that's why we are calling it a modulus of deformation, where we are applying the pressure and we are measuring the deformation. Here we are not talking about the stress. Here we are not talking about the strain, but here we are talking about the force and the deformation, only simple deformation. So that's why delta, if I can talk about this delta, this is what we are getting. What is the change in length between these 2 points? So if between these 2 points I am getting some change, so that is the deformation between these 2 points. But for this P is also making changes at some other locations. So this P is not only making a change between this point, this head to this length, but also making changes at some other locations. So we are not sure about whether we are using a strain or we are not sure about a strain. So that's why we are using only deformation. And because of this reason, if I can get a plot between stress and the deformation, or the load which we are applying over here, or the pressure which we are applying over here with respect to deformation, so we are getting a plot stress deformation with the pressure which is being applied in this experiment, right? So this will be pressure versus deformation curve, which we are going to develop at this location. So if you are going to do that, so that's why the slope of this pressure versus deformation will be your modulus of deformation. So the reason is very, very clear, I hope, to all of you, that because in case of rock mass, we are not sure about what is the original length of the rock mass for which this stress has been, or the pressure has been applied. So that's why we are just talking about the deformation or the effect of this pressure, which we are measuring in terms of the deformation. Okay. So now if I can go to this figure, it will be much more complicated. That's why I have tried to explain you with a small drawing so that you can understand it very well. So if I can come to that, I think there is no issue for all of you. So we can measure this deformation at different locations. So some of the procedures are there, which is of very important to you to understand. Possibly the procedures are very simple to you, and with this photograph, I think you can understand that what are the different instruments are there and how complicated this rock underground excavation is. It is very irregular in shape, where we have drawn a very regular shape. Now, the other important thing is that we are applying the load, which is almost to 1.5 to okay, no, we are applying the load which is something 1.2 to 1.5 times the proposed load. When I am doing this in situ test, I am trying to apply a load which is maybe 20% more or 50% more than the stress which we are expecting from the original structure. So we have to have a load more than what we are expecting from the proposed structure. Okay. So that's why, which is not possible in our laboratory test. So that's why we are trying to have this load maybe 20% or 50% more than the proposed load which is coming from our proposed structure. So that is the one way of measuring the suitability of our project structure, whether it is suitable or not. First point. Second point, we are talking about at least 5 increment of cyclic loading. We are trying to have 5 cycles of loading. Like, say for example, if I am talking about 5 times 1.5 times load, so we will apply this load in 5 different cycles of loading. Now, what is this 5 different cycles of loading? If I can talk in this lab, in this plot, so I will try to apply this loading, and then I will go for unloading. I will again go for loading and again unloading. I will again increase it, again unload it. No. Again load it, again load it. No. So you can see I will go for complete 5 cycles. 1 cycle, second cycle, third cycle, fourth cycle, and fifth cycle. So we'll apply this load. Maybe in first instance I am applying the 30% of the total loading. Then 60%, then 90%, then 120%, then 150%. So we will complete 1.5 times of the total load. So we'll apply this load in a cyclic manner. Okay. Second thing is that we will apply this load for 48 hours. A constant load will be applied. After each increment, we have to hold this load for 48 hours. Then you can have to have second cycle. Okay, so all this procedure having certain meaning. We are trying to judge the capacity or characterize the rock mass as much as possible. As much as possible, so that when your proposed structure should come, it will not. Our confidence levels should be very high. This is what we want. So we want that once in each cycle, your load should be constant for almost 48 hours. Okay. And then when unloading, when we are removing this load, then we are going for a zero pressure for about 24 hours. Okay. So 48 hours for constant load, highest value, and 24 hours for zero pressure. No? So this we have to follow. We will discuss it. What is happening? Okay. So already I have whatever is mentioned over here. I have already talked to you. Already talked about it. So now you see what we are willing to what we are willing to get out of this experiment. We are trying to find out the cyclic loading. Like you might be knowing about the fatigue test, maybe some sort of earthquake is being generated, activities that, so this type of sinusoidal waves are being generated, and this loading will be there for some considerable time. So we want to find out whether our structure or the rock mass is able to sustain that load or not, if cyclic type of loading is happening in this particular region. Some of the last time, like blasting, no? Blasting can be your civil constructions, maybe for mining constructions, maybe for your military, maybe for militant activities also. So we want to see whether this type of structure is able to withstand this type of cyclic loading or not, or vibration type of loading, it can take it or not. So that's why we try to see this cyclic loading. And for each cycle loading, we are trying to find out modulus, elastic modulus, which is very common terminology for all of us. Then we are finding out deformation modulus, and then we are unloading modulus. So we are defining three terminology. One is called elastic modulus, second is your deformation modulus, and unloading modulus. In this case, you see, when we are talking about the Hooke's law, we see that stress is proportional to strain, and when you are removing the stress, again your material will come back to its original position. So your loading and unloading cycle will be same and modulus will be same. But when we are talking about the rock material, your loading modulus and unloading graph will be same, means it is no longer. So that's why you will notice that when I was drawing this loading and unloading, your curve in loading will be, slope will be something, and in unloading it is something. It is, both are different. But if it is a Hooke's material, following Hooke's law, loading and unloading will follow the same line. Loading and unloading will be follow the same line. It will follow the same line. Loading and unloading will follow the same line, right? So here, in case of rock mass, we are not sure about the linearity is not a question at all, because the material is very real type of material, and it is not behaving like a ideal material at all, right? So this type of behavior is not possible at all. So in each cycle, your modulus, so some sort of a plasticity will be added into your rock mass. Some plasticities will be added, and slowly the material is going to have some sort of a deformation in each cycle. So we will find it out how much material is resilient against the cyclic loading. So that we will try to find it out, and so this is what it is. So we are trying to find out. Other thing is that creep characteristic. Well, there is one more. This is very important characteristic, that time dependent behavior. Now we are talking about the time dependent behavior of the rock. Say for example, a tunnel is there for a maybe 100 of years at a particular location. So we are trying to find it out what is the effect of time as far as the strength is concerned. So that's why in all loading and unloading we are keeping the load to be constant, and we want to see is there any changes is happening or not. So that is talking about the creep characteristic of the rock, and that is called the and that is also very important, right? And we can also find out the anisotropy. Now, say for example, time directional effects are there or not. Like in this case, we have tested in vertical direction. This photograph, the photograph I have drawn, that is for the vertical directions. We can have in horizontal directions also. So in both the directions, we will see whether your deformability modulus are same or different. So we can find it out, the anisotropy behavior of the rock. So you can see, it is very important to see in lab we are talking about a sample of maybe 10 centimeter height or maybe 15 centimeter height, and in case of field we are talking about in meters, maybe 5 meters, 10 meters sample rock mass we are going to test it as far as these elastic properties are concerned, right, or elastic plastic properties are concerned. So you can see the time, the change in the dimensions, the change in the dimensions, whatever we are testing in the lab, and the test we are doing in the labs. Okay, so these are very, very different. I will show you one of the test sample I have. I have one sample from the lab, so you can see the size, no? Almost 120, 12 centimeter or so, right? And when it is breaking, it is something breaking like this. No? This is the sample available with me, so you can see this. But the size we are talking about in the lab, the size we are talking in the lab in meters, no? So no match at all as far as the dimensions are concerned. No? So this is the sample we are testing in the lab. And whatever we are just discussed, it is the size we are talking in the field itself. No? So I think this is all for today.